friends! Welcome to Coding Garden with CJ. It's been a while, but we're back, and I've been pretty busy. I bought a house, work is busy, but we're here, and I thought I'd just do a chill stream. So if you look in the video description, there's a link to a poll. You can go there, submit any questions you have, vote on questions that other people have asked, and this is it. This is what you'll see when you go there. Later on, we'll vote on potential ideas for things for me to code, and we might even poll what I should use to build it, that kind of thing. But this is mainly just for us to catch up, hang out, say hello, all that good stuff. Let's say hello to all the people in the chat. Hello, Gio. Welcome to the stream. Hello, Ali. Hello, Rabbitworks. Hello, Eddie. Welcome to the stream. Hello, Shifronim. Hello, Brian. Hello, Julian. Welcome. Hello, Lampros. Called me a slacker. Yeah, so I worked like a half day today, so decided I would stream in the afternoon. Hello, Schmucky. Welcome to the stream. Hello, Krisu. Hello, Yossi. Hello, Ayub, who says, it's been a long time. Yes, it has. Hello, Amy. Welcome to the stream. Eddie says, I should work a half day every day. That would be nice. Hello, Raphael. Welcome to the stream. Hello, Danielle. Yossi asks, can I make a small app with the YouTube API? Possibly. So what I'm going to do later is I'll enable the ideas section, and then you all can submit ideas like build something with the YouTube API or build something with this or with that, and we'll vote on it. Shifronin says, hello and jumping hugs. That's great. Hello, Domenico. Welcome to the stream. Nisar says, how about any session about Vue with GraphQL with a SQL-based database like MySQL or Postgres? That would be interesting. I don't know if it's something I can do today. It'd probably take me a little bit of preparation. But yes, using Vue, I think Vue Apollo is a thing that we can probably use. And then GraphQL is like the way to get into the data, but anything can be behind it like a SQL database. So that would be cool. Hello, Avi12. Welcome to the stream. Danielle says, congrats, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. So I haven't moved yet, but I have a really big basement that's where I'm going to do my streaming and video creation. It's like a big creative space. It's going to be awesome. Yeah, eventually I'll do a tour of the new house. Krisu says, good evening from Germany. Good evening. Hello, Aaron, who says, congrats, thank you so much. Anish says, hi CJ, I'm glad that I ran across your channel. You make learning things so easy. I appreciate that. Hello, Bob. Bob's Paradox, welcome to the stream. Durkaral, hello. Bari, hello. Is my audio low? Maybe you need to turn up your volume, Bob? I don't know. Hello, Christian. Hi. Hello, Himanshu, also known as Tipsy Ninja. Nice to see you after so many days. Yeah, it's been a while. So it wasn't a live stream, I don't think. Or no, it was. Yeah, I did a live stream, but it was like 2 weeks ago from a meetup. But I was busy at work, and then I was busy preparing for that meetup, and then I almost barely didn't live stream it, but things are settling down. I got the house. There'll be more streams. I'm not going to say there's going to be a lot, but I'm going to try to do more streams. But also, I'm going to be moving, and I'll have to be setting up my new space, so it may not come that soon. But the new space in my house is designed to just be ready to stream, ready to make music. So once it's all set up, you'll see me a lot more. Hello, Kua. Welcome to the stream. Hello, MD. Hello, Amado. Hello, Facundo. Amy's asking, did I see the picture of the black hole? I did. Let's bring it up because it's cool news. Not these. Search the web. First black hole picture.
Showed off the first picture.
I just want to. There it is. I think it's something like. No, is it 55 million light years away? Wait. Yeah, so What we're seeing right now took 55 million years to get here. Million light years to get here. Cool. Hello, Lambstack. Welcome to the stream. Oh, cool. Avi12 says they made an Electron app that is speech to text. That's awesome. Lambstack says, Saludos desde República Dominica. Dominicana, sorry. Welcome. Aaron suggests, how about a super simple app, but everything is a microservice? That would be interesting. Yeah. Yeah, definitely suggest it later when we turn on ideas. Actually, I might turn that on right now. The only issue is when I enable ideas, when people first go to the link, they don't see questions, and I'm afraid people are going to submit questions under ideas. I don't know. Hello, Khan. Welcome to the stream. Mohammed says, hello from Maldives. That's awesome. I don't even know where that is. Julian says, donut. Is that what the black hole looked like? Oh, and Christopher's saying the server that was required to store that image was like 5 petabytes of data or something like that. That's crazy. Okay. So here we are. We have lots of questions. Also note that you can upvote a question if you like it. So anyone that has this page open, feel free to like thumbs up the questions you want to see first. I'll just answer them from top to bottom. We'll talk about them. And yeah, we'll do it. And actually, I might as well go ahead and enable ideas so people can start submitting those. Let me do that. Okay, so I just enabled this idea, what should I code, and you can submit your ideas there. But also, if you just want to ask a general question, you can submit it here. Cool. Okay. I don't know if this is an idea or a question, but Ahmed says Vue plus GraphQL plus MySQL and Postgres plus Ant design for Vue. Maybe this might actually be an idea of what we use whenever we code something. So that would be good. In come the ideas. Okay. Question from Dimitri. How to do routing in a full stack multi-page application that is using React on the front end and Express and SQL on the back end. Cool. Okay, so for this, I think I'll like kind of like draw a diagram and sort of like talk through it. Let me pull up a charting library thingy. So I kind of want to draw like a full stack diagram, and I don't know if Dimitri is in the chat right now, but to talk about this, it would be good to clarify how the app is being run or deployed, because there could be a situation where you actually have your React front end built code being served by Express, and if that's the case, then you have to actually add some routes into Express to make sure that your front-end requests get served the static files and the back-end requests get served from like a /API or something like that. But if they're stored on separate servers, then you would need to make sure, depending on how you have React routing set up, need to make sure that all of the requests get rerouted to the index. Let's kind of just draw like a quick little architecture thingy. Let's find a server. It's a file server? AWS servers? That's a nice little server. Okay. So this is a server. And I think if Dimitri, if you're watching, throw a message like, how is it deployed? Is it 2 separate servers, like a static server and a dynamic server, or is it all in one server? I'm going to explain it where it's all in one server first. So let's just say that's our server. We have like a client device. This will work. This is like a mix of like line drawings and real images. I don't know. It's going to work out. Okay, so let's say that the client makes a request for just like the home page, right? So it's going to come to our server. And can I type on this? No, let's add some text. This is just like a get for slash, just slash, because that's the index, right? The server is going to need to respond. I don't know how we're going to do this. Like that. Bring that down a little bit. I could also use like web sequence diagrams. I don't know what. Let's say server responds with static index.html, right? So this one server is handling everything. The request comes in, it then serves the index.html. The situation that Dimitri is describing now is, okay, what if I have a route that's like /login or /dashboard, and that actually needs to load some HTML because it's not requesting like API stuff. And that's where it gets a little bit tricky. So this is like easiest scenario. It requests the index. Your Express app can be set up to serve static files, and it can just respond with that. But then later on, and actually, I think maybe the best way to draw this would be with like a line representing all the incoming and outgoing requests. I don't know. Let's say this is the client. But let's say we have a nice little box here that we can attach a lot of lines to, like this. Okay, where are we? Nope, that's not it. I want this line. I want the front of it to go here. That one should attach there. But actually, it needs to be going in the other direction. A whiteboard would make this a lot easier. Okay, so client requests the home page. Server responds with index.html. But then, what if a client were to request something like /, let's just call it /dashboard, because this is going to be like another page that's part of the React app. So like, we need to get /dashboard. The question is here, does the server respond with static files, or does it respond with like a JSON route? What happens here? And you would need to configure that with Express. So let's say this is get. Really, what you can do with Express, and what I would recommend is, if it all is all on one server, is you have all of your API endpoints prefixed with something like /API. You could use whatever you want. I like to use /API. But then if you do that, your server can know how to differentiate those requests. But then what you need to do is you need to say, okay, if I see any request come in that doesn't begin with /API, I actually need to serve up the index.html file. Let me see if Dimitri's in the chat to like clarify. Oh, Dimitri is saying, have not thought about deploying it yet. Would be great if you could explain for both. Yeah, and you know what? Let's just do it really quick. I think, let me set like a 7-minute timer. I think I can get just like a basic React app inside of an Express app being served up, and like talk about the different scenarios. So I'm gonna take 7 minutes to set this thing up. Oh, that's not right. Let's go. Okay, let's make a directory called example routes. And yeah, I think for now we'll just make the whole thing an Express app. So let's init it. I need to start up my Verdacio, which is my NPM, local NPM caching thingy. We're going to install Express. We'll install cores. That should be enough. Cool. Let's open this up. We're going to create an index.js file, and this is our Express app. So we'll say Express is requiring Express, and then we'll create an app, and this is going to be Express like this, and then we'll say app.listen. It needs to listen on some port. Let's say it's process.env .port, or we'll default to 5000, whatever. So it's going to listen on that port, and then when it's ready, we're just going to log listening on HTTP :// localhost port. Okay, so we've got an Express app. It does absolutely nothing except for listen for requests. And let's start it up. So in the package JSON, I'll just create a start script. And this is going to be node index.js. npm start. Okay, so if we go to port 5000, we get an Express app, but we have no routes right now, so we don't see anything. Let us create some routes, and we'll start to do what I was talking about. So basically what needs to happen, and if we're following the scenario where everything lives on the server, like the static files of the React app lives on the server, all of our API routes live on the server, we actually need like a catch-all route for anything that isn't found, so that way we can redirect it to the index, and then the React app can serve it up. I'm trying to think of the easiest way to create a React app that has routing in it all set up and ready to go, because it typically takes me like 10 minutes just to do that. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Vue.js just because I know I can get it set up in like 3 minutes. But it's going to behave in the same way. We're going to have routing, and we'll have client-side routes that are not our back-end routes. So I'm just going to do that. Okay. And really, ultimately, even if you're making a React app or a Vue app, it needs to be built. So you'd have to write it somewhere, build it. That creates some static files, and then you would put those as static files in your Express app, which is why I don't think I'm going to create the Vue app here. I'm going to create it right here. So how does Vue work? Do I have Vue? I do. So Vue create example front-end routes. We're going to manually select. So I definitely want the router. This is really what I'm going to be demonstrating is routing. Routing is set up differently with React, but at the end of the day, it works in the same way. So I should be able to demonstrate it with this. We want a linter. That should be good. Use history mode from router. This is where things get tricky. So it requires proper server setup for index fallback in production. And what this means is if you've ever done client-side routing, sometimes you have the choice of having your client-side routes prefixed with a hash or without it. And if you don't have it, then it uses history mode. But the thing is, if you use a hash, then you don't have to configure your server in any way because the browser knows that if the client-side route begins with a hash, it doesn't request to the server. It's all client-side. So we're going to set this up with history mode because that will require some configuration. So yes, history mode. And I believe this is like the... I don't know if it's the default way with React Router, but there is browser router, and I think there's hash router. Browser router uses the history mode, so this is what we're talking about. ESLint, lint on save, go. Cool. +1 for Vue. Vue is good, yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna... I'm also a little scatterbrained. Like, I haven't streamed in so long. I'm all over the place. I'm just, like, building things. I don't know. I'll take a drink. Okay. So we'll go into the front-end app that we just created. We should be able to do an npm start. npm run serve. Yeah, that's the one. And then we'll also open up the front end in VS Code. And let's set up some routes. So in Vue.js, your routes are typically set up in a file like this, where you have what is the path, what's it called, and then what component should we show when it is that path. Right now it just has 2 routes. It has home and about. And if it starts up, which it has, we can demo that. So look at the URL. Right now it's just /. And if I go to about, it's just /about. And if I refresh the page and request /about directly, it still works because the Webpack dev server knows how to reroute this request. But this is the thing that we need to fix on when it's running inside of Express. So Let me just add like 2 more routes just for fun. So let's add another file here. Let's call this like dashboard.view. Dashboard. That's really all it's going to be. I just want to show multiple routes. What else is there? We have about, we have dashboard. Just call it fun. Fun! Okay, so we have a few more views. Now let's set up the routes. So in our router, we're going to import all of those components. So we're going to import dashboard from dashboard, and then we're going to import fun from fun. Okay, now we need to add the routes. So they're just going to be super basic like this, and we'll say when the URL is /dashboard, we're going to load, dashboard. We'll load the dashboard component, which we imported, and then we'll do the same thing with fun. But this is a capital F for the component. Okay, so now we have a few extra routes. Let's actually link to them. And I think on the home page, not on the home page. Here it is. So in app.view is where we actually have our links. In Vue.js, they're called router link. In React Router, they're just called link. But basically, these will link to other routes you have inside of your application. So we have home, we have about, we have dashboard, and we have fun. Okay, so we have all of these links, and if you look at the URL, okay, I ran out of time, but I'm set up, now I'm explaining. So if you look at the URL, right now it's /, so we see the home page. When it's about, we see the about page. When it's the dashboard, we see the dashboard, and when it's the fun page, we see the fun page. I'm just going to get rid of this extra thing there. Okay, so this is client-side routing because these requests are not going out to any server anywhere. The browser is actually using the history API. I think it's a thing. And it's doing something like history.pushState. And I think if I do like /about, yeah. This isn't hooked into Vue, so it doesn't know to change it. But you'll notice that the URL changed and like nothing refreshed. Under the hood, all of these client-side routers, this is what they're doing. They're changing the URL, but they're not actually refreshing the page. And JavaScript can see when that URL changes. Okay, so this is our client-side routing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build this. I'm going to build this into static files, and I'm going to try to serve it from my Express app. So right now we're in the Vue app. If you look in the package JSON, it has a build. Your React app would have a build too. Basically, this takes all of the stuff that the browser doesn't understand, like this template tag and potentially any ES6, 7, 8 JavaScript code, or if you have Sass or anything like that. Anything the browser doesn't understand, it's going to turn it into something the browser will understand, and it's going to turn it into the smallest number of files. So I'm going to do npm run build, and that will build it. And check it out. So our app has all these components and all these views and all these JavaScript files, but when we build it, it just turns it into this set of files. Typically, the vendor file is like the actual Vue.js library. App has all of our other components. And then what I didn't show a second ago is because the about route is using dynamic loading, this is called chunking and lazy loading. It actually put the about page into its own separate file. And this is useful if you have different parts of your application that all users may not need all of the time. And you can actually have your build process put them into separate files. We could put them all into one file if we change this to just be the regular component. Regardless, that generated this dist folder. So if we look in dist, it's just static files. This is stuff that the browser can understand directly. And so this folder is what I'm going to attempt to serve from our Express app. So let's do just that. So we're going to go back up. We're going to go into our, we called it example routes. Let me rename it to example backend routes. Let's move example-routes to example backend routes. Okay. And then we want to copy recursively the example/frontend route/dist. So we want that dist folder, and we're going to copy it into our backend app. We're going to put it in a folder called public. It's the typical convention for Express. Go. Okay. So that should have done it. And now if we go into our backend routes app, we will see it has this public folder, and that actually has our static built files in it. This is our Vue.js application. So now I want to serve this from my Express app. Express has a built-in static serve, which means you can tell it, hey, if a request comes in, we don't have any routes for it, check and see if that file exists in the public folder, and if it does, just serve it back up. So I'm going to say app.use on... Well, I should be able to just say app.use express.static, and we'll tell it we want to serve things from the public folder. So when a request comes in, check and see if there's something in the public folder, and if there is, serve it back up. And so now I will kill my backend app, restart it, and now when I go here, I see my Vue app. So right now you'll see that it's running on port 5000. So the Express app is actually serving up the Vue.js application. And if I click these links, they still work because it's JavaScript that's doing it. It's using the history API to change the URL and change the contents. But, and here's where the tricky part comes in, if someone were to try to go directly to dashboard, what's going to happen? Go. Cannot get dashboard. So Express sees this request and it's like, hey, I don't know what dashboard is. I don't know how to find that. And so you get a 404 not found. So this is where it comes into configuring the Express server to say, okay, if we get a request for something that you don't find, you actually need to serve up the index file so JavaScript can kick in and show the right page. So we will do that right now. And I'll do this here. So I'll say app.get star. So when anything comes in that you don't understand, we're just going to send that index.html file. res.send file. And we just want to send public/index.html. So if a GET request comes in for /dashboard or /fun, the static folder won't know how to serve it, so it'll reach this, and it'll just serve up the index.html file. So now if we have that, and if we request /dashboard, path must be absolute or specify root to res.send file. Absolute? Wait. Okay, so I think I need to put the full path in here. So I'm gonna pull in path, which is a core module in Node.js, and we'll say path.join. So this is a nice utility for like putting multiple things together to create a file path. I believe we want dir name. So this is the directory name, the full directory name of where this folder exists on my computer. We want to combine that with public, and we want to combine that with index.html. So that, if we kill it, restart it, refresh it, there we go. So the request came in on /dashboard. It was like, hey, I don't know what to do with that. So it then served up the index.html file. Index.html file loads up, and it knows how to show the about or the dashboard page. So this is typically what you have to do if you are serving your static files from inside of your Express app. And then this comes into play when you want to have other routes as well. So if I do have backend routes that are like talking to a database, typically I would prefix those with like /API. So if we create a new folder in here, not that, called API. And in here, we just have like call it index.js, but it's just going to be a router. And this comes in from Express. And we'll say when you get slash right now, we're just going to respond with some JSON. Hello, world. Cool. But now that we have this router, we want to mount it inside of our Express app. So typically, I would do that probably like right here and say app.use /API. So if any requests come into my server that begin with /API, they're going to be served up by this router, which can have multiple routers underneath it. It can talk to a database. It can do all kinds of stuff. But because I have it prefixed, that's not going to interfere with this wildcard serve, which is going to be serving up index.html. And here I would need to bring in the API file, or the router. So API is bringing in that API thingy, and then we would use it right here. Cool. Let's restart our server. And so now our front end still works just fine, but if we request /API, we actually get back JSON because now it's being served by that separate folder. So this is typically one way to handle it, where your Express app is serving up your static front end. It has multiple routes because they're client-side routes. You need something like this, which is going to serve up the index if some route is requested that the server doesn't know about. I think that kind of answers your question. I've been talking a long time. I didn't really even use my diagram. Yeah, and let's just kind of write what happens here. So server does not find a static file called dashboard. So serves up index.html instead. And then from here, the response would go back. Yeah, there we go. Well, really, it just responds with static index.html. But right here is where things would get a little more interesting. Client.js kicks in and loads correct component. So that's basically what's happening here. You request something from the server it doesn't know about. It just gives you back the whole application. Then JavaScript kicks in and says, hey, the URL that you were trying to go to was dashboard, so I'm going to load the dashboard component. I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking. I don't know if that was helpful for anyone. And it hopefully answers your question, Dimitri. So in terms of how to do routing, you have to basically differentiate between your client-side routes and your back-end routes. And Express doesn't have to know about your client-side routes. You basically just have to set it up so that if a request comes in for something it doesn't know about, it's just going to give back the index.html. And this is the scenario where your client-side app, whether it's React or Vue or whatever, is living inside of the Express app. Typically, the way I build things is I would just deploy these completely separately. So my front-end app is making requests to a different server that's hosting the node.js app. And when people visit my website, they're actually visiting a separate website. For that, you would still need to configure wherever you're hosting your static files to reroute requests to the index.html. I actually did a stream a while back. I think I called it 101 Ways to Deploy a React App. Deploy React. Yes, this one. And in this, I was purely focusing on deploying it to static services like Netlify, Surge, Now. I think there's even like a Heroku build pack, which technically isn't a static serve. But in this episode, I show with each of these services how you configure it to reroute requests back to your index file. And basically all of these services support that because they know people have client-side applications that might need something like that. So hope that helped, Dimitri. I know I talked a lot, but there you go. I wonder if I can mark that as complete. archive question. There we go. Cool. All right, I'm going to catch up on the chat. Amir is asking, when am I going to make my next Katas episode? I'm going to try to do it this Wednesday. I had been on a regular schedule of doing Katas every Wednesday, but then I got pretty busy. But I'm going to try to do one this Wednesday. Julian says, good explanation. Thanks. Edgar's asked, what was the question? I just got rid of it. But basically the question was, how do you do routing when you have both like a client-side React app and a backend Express app? Hello, Mr. Speller's Math Tutorials. Welcome to the stream. MD Sojal is asking, I'm learning web development to be a full stack web developer. Do I need a college degree to be a full stack web developer and work as a freelancer? You don't. I actually taught at a school where people did not get computer science degrees. We taught them everything they needed to know about coding, and they got jobs in it. That said, depending on like where you're applying, they might still want to see a college degree of some kind. A lot of my students had business degrees or degrees in art, and basically they had went to college but not for computer science or coding, and that helped on their resume because it just showed that they had been to college. So you might have a little bit of issues getting in the door if you don't even have a college degree to begin with, but I would say it absolutely is possible to get a job in industry without having a degree. Cool. Anonymous asks, if someone gets hired as a contractor, can he set his own hours and schedule? It depends. So typically when you're hired as a contractor, that means like a company is hiring you in to do some work for them. And because you're working for that company, typically, and like this varies case by case, but typically you have to work their business hours, or you have to be available when they're working so that they can work with you. If it's a situation where you have been hired to build something for them, but you're not necessarily working very closely with them, then you can set your own hours all day. But I currently work at a consultancy, so companies come to us and ask us to build software for them. But sometimes we have a much closer relationship where we actually get contractor IDs on their internal network. And I just got a pledge on Patreon from Peter. Thank you so much, Peter. But we work closer with a company where we actually get access to their company intranet, and we actually get a company ID, and we have contractor status. And because we have that, we're kind of expected to work within the same business hours and collaborate. And while I do say like my schedule is 9 to 5, I don't really answer anything outside of 9 to 5. Within those hours, I am obligated. So the answer is it varies wildly, but typically if you are hired as like a close working contractor, it's almost like you're an employee, but you're not an employee. It depends and it varies. But thanks for the question. Christian is asking Flutter versus React Native. I'll be honest, I've never used Flutter before, but I have looked into it. Let's pull it up. But it's a similar idea with React Native where you have one code base that you can then build for iOS, for Android, but it's still just one code base. You might have some custom code that's like in native modules, but all of your UI code and shared business logic can actually be shared between the platforms. Flutter is similar, but I believe it's its own language. Let's look at the docs. Getting started. Mac. Can I just see an example? Resources. User interface. Widgets. Here we go. Okay. So you're building a Hello World app. It has like this import with package syntax. It has like void main. I don't know what this language is called. Is this language actually called Flutter? But I got another patron pledge. So I thank you, Aaron Huar, for the $5 pledge. Appreciate it. I should probably look what language this is. Let me look on Wikipedia. is it called Flutter? So Flutter is an open source mobile application development framework created by Google. It's used to develop applications for Android and iOS. Framework and architecture. Oh, it's using the Dart platform. So it's using the Dart language. So you must learn this language called Dart in order to build your app and your components to actually build your Flutter application. But that said, once you know Dart, once you know the Flutter SDK, you can build mobile apps that will run anywhere. Similar idea with React Native. So React Native lets you build applications using React code, and then those can be compiled to run on iOS or run on Android. So the question that has been asked is Flutter versus React Native. I would say, actually, I don't know which one has been around longer. So Flutter's initial release was only a year ago, so it's actually still in alpha. Let's look at React Native on Wikipedia. And really, I guess the point I'm trying to get at is how mature are these ecosystems? So React Native has been around for about 4 years. So I'm sure a lot of more bugs have been squashed, a lot more things have been done with React Native maybe than Flutter. I don't know for sure, but just seeing how old they are informs me how mature they are or how long they've been around and how many different types of people have been using them so that they can solve the different kinds of edge cases that pop up. So React Native does that have that going for it. The other thing about React Native is if you already know JavaScript and you know React, you can very easily learn React Native. It does take some getting used to because you can't use all of the DOM elements that you're used to in regular web development. So you can't use divs or p tags or LIs or images. You have to use the React Native components like text and view and scroll view and image. But aside from that, everything kind of works in the same way. You still have component hierarchies. You can use things like Redux. Components have props, and you can have stateless components or stateful components. I'm pretty sure you can use the latest React hooks with React Native. So the one thing React Native has going for it is if you know React and you've built React applications, it'll probably be easier to pick up than something like Flutter. Because with Flutter, you'd have to learn Dart, you'd have to learn their platform, and to even get started, you'd have to learn those things before you can kind of get up and going. So that's the way I see it, and mainly because I am a JavaScript developer. I think I built one thing in Dart once because it seemed really cool. But yeah, that's just the way I see it. It may be worth it though because I know and I don't know how Flutter handles native modules. So with React Native, if you ever wanted to do something natively on the device that isn't supported yet, you would have to write that native code yourself. So take, for example, let's say the camera module did not exist for React Native. You would need a Java developer, or you need to learn Java, to write bridge code that would tell your React Native code how to take a picture on Android using Java code. So that you'd have to actually write Java code that your React Native code can then call. And then when that same app is running on iOS, it would need to call an iOS native module. So you would need a Swift developer, you'd need to learn Swift to write the native code that can actually take the pictures so that React Native can communicate with it. And that's one of the caveats of React Native. Once you start doing things that aren't supported yet, then you'd have to implement them yourself. That said, a lot of stuff is supported. But the reason I mention that is because the way Flutter does it may not be that way. Maybe you can write it in Dart and it will actually run natively on both iOS and Android. I don't know enough to say. Platform integration, writing platform-specific code. Cool. Messages are passed between the client UI and host platform using platform channels as illustrated in this diagram. Yeah, so I think eventually, if you needed to do something like that, it would probably work in a similar way, but they just have kind of a framework for doing it. So it's probably not the best answer to, or not, I'm not giving a direct opinion of which one you should use. In my case, I would probably use React Native because I have used React versus learning Dart and all all that it entails, and then also the maturity of the platform. So Flutter has been around for a year. React Native has been around for like 4 years. There's also the Expo SDK that is built on top of React Native that allows you to build and debug your app on any mobile device without even having to plug it in. Not sure if Flutter supports something like that, so that's my view on that. Cool, and let's catch up on the chat, see if anybody said anything about React, Flutter, that kind of thing. Yeah, and earlier there was a question about a contractor. Eddie mentions, basically, if you're a contractor, you're an employee without any of the benefits like 401k. Yeah. The situation I'm in right now with the company is a little special because like I'm employed by a company, but I'm also contracting for another company. So I do have like the benefits and everything of my current company, but I'm contracting for another one. I don't know. It's interesting. But yes. Yeah, and everybody was like, Dart, it's Dart, it's Dart. I figured it out. Flutter uses Dart. They said it said in the import. I guess I didn't see that. Aaron is saying, although React Native is more mature, it seems as though Flutter is more performant. That's at least what my senior told me. And I wouldn't know. I haven't really used Flutter, so it could be. Motivation Maxed Out asks, how much does your Mac laptop cost? I want it to buy one. This is a MacBook Pro. This is actually a 2015 MacBook Pro, so it's technically like 4 years old, probably like 3.5 years old. But it still works wonderfully, and I love it. So my recommendation is if you want a laptop like this, you can look on eBay or any sort of like used goods website. You might even be able to find it on Amazon for probably around $1,000 or so. I don't really know. I don't want to do the searching right now, but it's a 3.5-year-old laptop and it still runs beautifully, and I'm going to use it until it stops working. So yeah, just look for the, I think it's a late 2015 MacBook Pro. They used to say it in here, I thought. Oh yeah, here it is. Mid 2015 Retina 15-inch MacBook Pro. I think the other thing is, if you look at the cost of the current MacBook Pros, I don't know how much they are, probably like $2,500. Would you rather spend a little bit more to get like a brand new one versus a used one? I don't know. But I really do like this laptop. Cool. All right, let's answer another question. How to get started with server architecture, auth, APIs, load balancing, databases, etc. Greets from Austria. I would say kind of just start doing it. Like I think so AWS seems like there's a high barrier for entry for even like beginners because their docs are so verbose, and like they have a lot of documentation, but it's not always straightforward. But if you sign up for AWS, you get, I think, a 1 year free where you can pretty much try out all of these services, and you could set up a Node.js API running on an EC2 instance and put that behind a load balancer, and then use Amazon RDS and hook those two things up. And the reason I mention a service like AWS is because it would overall take less configuration, because you can kind of just spin up these things as you need them and then connect them in the way that they were meant to be connected, versus having to procure all types of servers and administer them from scratch, which is a lot more overhead. So I would say try to start getting familiar with AWS. You can sign up for the free year of usage, get familiar with the different tools, and then I'm sure there are a ton of YouTube videos on server architecture and how all those things hook up. I pretty much just learned by doing, and I actually come from more of like a system administration background. So before I was writing a lot of code, I was actually working a lot on Linux machines and in the Linux terminal. So I got very comfortable with managing and administering a Linux machine. So when it came to like spinning up an EC2 instance and installing the necessary packages and things like that, I was able to do that because you can spin up an EC2, you can SSH into it, you can set up the services, stuff like that. So it's kind of a roundabout answer. I kind of just learned by doing. I think AWS is a good way to go because they have all of these things and they have the documentation that can tell you how to hook them all up, but it is a lot of overhead. So hope that helps. Let's see if anyone is talking about it. Oh, and hello, Oliver. Welcome to the stream. Cool. There are a lot of questions in the YouTube chat. If you look in the description, there's a link to this. I'm going to prefer to go from this, like these questions that are asked. So if you asked a question in the YouTube chat, just transfer it over here so I can make sure that I get to it. And to an earlier question, Cartin is saying it's worth to mention Vue Native as well, and probably also like native script. So earlier we were talking about React Native, Flutter. Native script is another thing for building native apps, but this allows you to use either Angular or Vue.js or just regular plain old JavaScript. You can write it that way, and then it will actually build into a native mobile application, so definitely check that out. There also is Vue Native, which is actually just a wrapper on top of React Native. So Vue Native is React Native, but you can actually write Vue components instead. They're all in the same family. Okay, Anonymous asks, what exactly is Docker? It's a great question. Can I answer it? Let me think about it for a second. Close this. Okay. In terms of maybe what we should know or have heard about before is virtualization. Docker is not virtualization. Docker is containerization. But before Docker came around, not before it came around, before it got really popular, the main way of doing something like this would have been with virtualization. So let's talk about virtualization first. We can see how they compare, and then we'll just talk about what Docker is. Actually, should I do this? Can I explain in like 2 sentences what Docker is? Okay, I'm gonna try. So you've just joined a new team, and they have a code base that you need to get up and running. They have a backend API. They have a database you need to connect to. There's a front end. Maybe there are some other services that need to be running that maybe the backend talks to. It's a very complex system, and there's a lot going on. And so as a new person on this team, it's going to take a little bit of time for you to get all of that set up, right? You have to install the database. You have to make sure it's configured in the same way. You have to set up all the services, right? This can take a lot of time to get it all set up and going. Docker, and also an internal tool they have called Docker Compose, basically allows you to create these complex systems of like servers and front-end code and back-end code and other services. You define in a file what all of these services are and how they communicate, and with one command, you can basically spin up all of those services on your machine without any further configuration. So that is what Docker allows you to do. As to how it works and what it compares to, maybe we can talk about that. But how was that answer? So basically you have like a very complex server setup or system where things connect together. And with a Docker file or a Docker Compose file, you define it once and say, we need this database. It exposes this port. It has this username and password. We need this backend node server that pulls the code from here and starts up on this server, but then we need another service, which that node server will talk to. You define all of that in a file. You say Docker up or Docker Compose up, and it just creates all these little machines. They're all running, and they can all communicate together. So that's what Docker is, and that's why people like it. Because you can also think about that like at scale. So if you're a very large organization with a very complex system, and you have thousands or millions of users, because you've predefined how all of these services are configured and how they can be spun up, when you get more traffic, all you have to do is say, okay, let's spin up a few more containers of that type, and everything just keeps on moving. And then that might be using a service, something like Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is an orchestration system for Docker containers. Maybe that helped. It was kind of rambly. Cool. Oh, cool. And to a previous question, so someone had asked about like server architecture. Oliver's saying AWS is messy, and Terraform is an amazing tool that I highly recommend. I've never used it before. What is it? Is this it? Terraform.io? It's open source too. Write, plan, and create infrastructure as code. Interesting. And it's basically platform agnostic. So earlier I mentioned AWS. There are other services that are provided that are very similar. So there's Google Cloud Platform, there's Microsoft Azure. They all provide very similar services where you can spin up a Linux box, or you can spin up a database all in the cloud, but you have access to it. So maybe you don't use AWS. I think all of these provide free credits when you first get signed up too, so you might try using those other ones. But Terraform sounds interesting. I don't really see any examples, but maybe that's a way to get up and going. Because it could be, because it's platform agnostic, you define and say, I need a Linux server, I need this database, this is how they communicate. You define it in a Terraform file, and then regardless of your underlying infrastructure like AWS or Azure, it just works. Sounds cool. Oh, interesting side note. So this is to a previous question that was asked about like React Native versus Flutter. Durkarall says, isn't Ionic the same staff as React Native? Oh, wait, do you mean, oh, you mean sort of the same. And the answer is no. So before something like React Native came around, there was this platform called, or this tool, SDK called Cordova. And basically, Ionic, I believe, still uses Cordova under the hood. Maybe it changed. Whoa, what are native builds? No, okay. But these are known as hybrid mobile apps. So typically what happens is you have a mobile app, but it's just running a web view. And inside of the web view, you have any sort of JavaScript application. So that's typically what Ionic was. It might have changed, because I know Ionic 3 is here, Ionic 2. Maybe this one's more native, but the way Ionic used to be was it was hybrid mobile. So you could build your app, you could still have native features, but that's because of a platform called Cordova, where they had built all of the native modules and built the JavaScript interface to do native things like take pictures or get GPS location and different things like that. But at the end of the day, it was actually a mobile app running inside of a web view inside of an Android. Well, not an Android app, inside of a native app. And people didn't like that because there were some performance issues. Like, it might seem sluggish, or it may not seem like it's a native experience, because it really is just a web view, but it does have native features. Whereas React Native, when it's compiled, they are... You're seeing native UI elements. You're seeing actual native things, and it's not just a web view. So that's the main difference there. Ionic may have changed, though. Please, like, if they have, like, I'm sorry, I didn't know, but that's the way Ionic used to be. Is Cordova the one that was called PhoneGap before? I don't think so. I think PhoneGap might have been using Cordova under the hood. Or was it called PhoneGap before? I don't know. This is all... Yeah. Apache Cordova, formerly PhoneGap. And it was initially released in 2009. Okay. So... I'm all over the place, but I did just talk about Docker. Hopefully that was a helpful explanation. Like, I didn't talk about how it actually works, but at the end of the day, that is why people would use it. So there's that. How do push notifications work in React Native? I have no idea. I would say, I would think that they have some sort of API that you can call into. I think at the end of the day, you still need to register like with Apple push notifications. I really have no idea. I would take some research to look into. So I'm gonna not answer that one. I could, but I've been streaming for what, an hour now? Yeah, streaming for an hour. So I will respectfully say I do not know, but I could figure it out, and I probably will have to figure it out because we're building a React Native app for the Coding Garden community app. So eventually I'll know, but I don't know right now. Cool. Okay, so if we use GraphQL, where to use it? In server-side Express or in client-side Vue? Example router, example you started with. So I created that example app a little bit earlier ago. I could maybe talk about where it would fit in. Maybe we draw another diagram. Let's like go down here. We'll just use boxes this time. So let's say this is my node.js server. Let's say this is my, I don't know, SQL database. But let's also say this is my Mongo database. But let's also say this is some other RESTful API that I need to talk to. Okay. Typically, what GraphQL does is it exposes a single endpoint in your backend server. So on your backend, you would have an endpoint that's something like, or not something like, it usually is /GraphQL. And so there's this one endpoint running on the server, and that's where all of the GraphQL requests will come into. And so if you have like a client, so this is, let's say this is a, say a client app. So this could be React, this could be Vue, this could be vanilla, this could be Angular. This is just something running inside of the browser. It will make all of its requests to /GraphQL. And these are just a simple AJAX request or like XML HTTP request or like a fetch. So you could think of it like your client-side app is still like talking to an API, but it's just one endpoint. It's just /GraphQL. And then GraphQL has various ways of changing what if you're requesting data or if you're updating data. But at the end of the day, all of your requests are going into GraphQL. And we'll just say this is AJAX. So your client-side app is still making the same kind of requests it would have if it was talking to a REST API, but at the end of the day, it's just talking to a single endpoint. Let's say, and really, this doesn't have to be a Node.js server either, because GraphQL is more of a specification, and people have written libraries so it can run in different places. So let's just call this our GraphQL server. And we'll just say in parentheses, like, could be Node.js, Go, there's probably a .NET one, probably a Ruby one. Like, GraphQL has implementations in all of these different languages, but at the end of the day, they all expose a /GraphQL endpoint. And then under the hood, what you can do is you define your schemas and your types and say, like, I have a user type and it has these properties, and users have many pets and they have these properties. So you define all of your types, and then in your resolvers, you basically say, okay, when someone makes a request for users, that actually needs to come out of this SQL database. And then when someone makes a request for, I don't know, population data, that's actually going to come out of this Mongo database. And then when somebody makes a request for this other thing, that actually is going to go out to some separate REST API and then get back the data. Wait, let's do this and this. But to the client that's making the request, they have no idea what's behind the scenes. And for GraphQL, you can literally use anything you want under the hood. It's all about exposing this unified, uniform interface. So the question was, if we use GraphQL, where to use it? In server-side Express or client-side Vue? Okay, so that's kind of how it all connects together, but then how to actually use it. So typically on the client side, there is a library called Apollo. And so this is a JS library for making GraphQL requests. And the thing is, because these are just AJAX or fetch requests, you don't have to use Apollo. You could write your own library if you wanted to, but it just makes it a lot easier because it can download the schema, initially download the types. It has different resolvers. It can stay in sync, that kind of thing. And there are probably other JavaScript libraries for talking as well. But at the end of the day, it's just an AJAX or a fetch request. And in terms of how you use it on the server, there are a lot of different options there as well. If we do look at Apollo GraphQL, I think they have like not an Express. They might have like a Node or an Express package that you can install that gets GraphQL going. Let's look at the docs. Tutorial. Build a schema. Hook your data sources. I think Apollo is also... It's also like a hosted servers, but they're showing right here requiring Apollo server. So Apollo server is an NPM module that you can install to get a GraphQL server up and going inside of your Express app. So this is something you would install on the back end, like on this side. And that's where you would configure all of your types and schemas, and that's where you configure your resolvers, which can talk to different databases. I used one called, I think it's GraphQL Yoga. Yeah. And this one is actually really easy to get up and going, to get a GraphQL endpoint up and going inside of your Node or Express app. And like, yeah, this is the quick start. This is like all you would need to get it up and going. So there are various libraries. I think at the end of the day, you should just know that GraphQL is a specification, and for any given thing that you're using, there would be a way of installing it on the back end. And it is a back end technology. It runs on the back end. And the way you talk to it from the client is just through AJAX requests to that one endpoint. Okay. All right. I hope that helped. I didn't really give a code example, but I hope that helped piece like where things are actually fitting and how they communicate. Cool. Rand just said, cheers, CJ. Congrats on the house. Thank you so much. Croduxy says Apollo sounds like a great app. Yeah, and Apollo has client-side libraries for multiple things. Like I think there's Apollo Redux or Apollo React. There's Apollo for Vue and Vuex. They are just like a platform that make things really easy when you're working with GraphQL. Oliver says, I find it interesting that GraphQL is basically just moving which piece of your code does the API routing choices and is a good paradigm shift that makes APIs much easier. Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, your API is literally /GraphQL. And then based on the incoming query, and so I didn't go into details of how this is working under the hood, but the actual query that you send defines which specific type you're requesting. And that's all, like the client needs to know what it can request, but it sends it to that one endpoint. And then behind the scenes, those can be resolved from databases or whatever. Yeah. Hello, Damien. Welcome to the stream. Mike asks, how can you type, for example, / wiki or ! npm? It's because I use DuckDuckGo. I just searched DuckDuckGo for DuckDuckGo. But DuckDuckGo has, I think it calls them bang commands or hash. These. So learn more. Yeah, /bang. So this is built into DuckDuckGo, where people have built these various ways to search. So like bang A will search Amazon, etc. And And I use it all the time because like MDN will take you to Mozilla Developer Network, NPM will take you to NPM, GH will take you to GitHub, Wiki will take you to Wikipedia, but that is built into DuckDuckGo. Yep. Oh wait, that's not it. What is that? What did I just send you? It's like, oh, that's me. I'm messing up. Okay, I accidentally exited the chat window. Just a second. Yeah, I don't think I sent the right thing, but I showed you how to get there, so cool. Okay, I've been talking for an hour and 15. I think I'm gonna answer like 2 more questions. There's a lot on here, so vote now. Vote for your favorite question right now, and I'll answer 2 of them because I do want to code some things because there are like 10 plus ideas on here, and I do want to write some more code. So, yeah, let's just take a minute and vote for the question you want me to answer. That's interesting. How's everyone's day? You having a good day? My day's okay. I have a YouTube notification. Oh, Coding Train uploaded a new video. Programming with P5.js for beginners. Trailer. Oh, it sounds like he might be coming out with some, like a video series. That's pretty cool. Okay, the votes are in. And the majority of the votes are here. Okay, so here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna leave this question and answer stream open. So, and I'll probably make this a regular occurrence, like maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, where I'll just answer a bunch of questions. And so if your question was asked, in the next time, I will try to answer it. But for now, we're just going to pick 2, and then we're going to start coding. First question that just got voted. Even people might be voting anonymously. Like, I'm pretty sure if you open up like a private tab, you can like upvote your own question. That's okay, though. How does a .NET backend work, and why is it worse than Express? It's not worse than Express. It's just different. So, I mean, I talk a lot about like front end and back end on my channel, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you use, they're just going to behave in the very same way. So just like in Express, where like we can define a route and say that when a request comes in on this route, we're going to do a database lookup, we're going to get back some data, and we're going to respond with that data as JSON. Like the idea of doing something like that doesn't have to be done with JavaScript and doesn't have to be done with Express. You could do that with Ruby on Rails. You could do that with .NET. You could do that with Go. The common thing between all of it is the HTTP, like Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and REST APIs, and also JSON formatting, because JSON is like the browser can understand it really easily, and it's a pretty lightweight data format. So There are these underlying things that it doesn't really matter what you use. At the end of the day, it's just doing that. So when you're building a backend with .NET, you could build a very similar backend that you would have built with Express. The only thing is with .NET, typically you're using C#, which is a statically typed language. And there are some different, they're not different, there's some implications of that. Because we're so used to, in JavaScript, working with JavaScript objects that, and working with things that don't have static types, that when we get some data out of the database, it takes like 2 lines of code to then send that back to the client as JSON. But if you're ever building something like that in a more statically typed language, you actually have to define those types and serializers ahead of time. So you have to say that I get this data out of the database, I need to convert it into a user type, and then I need to tell it that when the user type gets sent back to the client, it needs to go through this formatting or change to turn it into JSON data. So it's a little bit more work when you're using a more statically typed language like .NET. I would not say it's worse, I would just say it's different. And then also .NET, ASP.NET MVC is a way of building like larger backend applications that aren't just like JSON APIs. So like ASP.NET MVC has like this Razor view engine, which would be similar to like Express res.render. They have a way of defining your templates and then putting data into those templates and serving it back to the client. I would say it's not worse. It's just different. It's a different language. It's a different way of doing things. But at the end of the day, it's still HTTP. It's still potentially a RESTful API. And yeah, there's that. I guess the other thing to mention is that now .NET Core is cross-platform, meaning you can run the same .NET, ASP.NET API on a Linux machine or a Windows machine or a Mac machine, and it's going to behave in the same way. Whereas before it typically only ran on Windows. There were ways of doing it elsewhere, but it wasn't like officially supported. Now it is officially supported. With Node and Express, Node runs on all platforms, and so by the nature of that, your Express code, your JavaScript code can run on pretty much all platforms as well. So it's not worse, it's just different way of doing things, but at the end of the day, it all works the same ultimately. Cool. All right, so that was that one. The next one is, will you create courses in the future? Example, Node.js basic to advanced series of videos kind of stuff. You're an awesome teacher. Sorry for the bad. Englando. No worries. This question was from Lucas. I've thought about it. Like I've thought about it a lot. So especially when I first started this YouTube channel, I wanted to start to create courses that I could sell or like build my own platform for selling courses. I just haven't found the time to do it. But ultimately, and it seems like from the amount of feedback I get on the live streams that I do and just the people that watch and all that, it seems like they do okay. Like I wouldn't just put them out there and nobody would watch them. At least 2 people would watch them, at least. So probably. It's really just a matter of, do I have the time? And will I set that time aside to do it? One thing I like about live streaming is I don't really, especially for streams like this, I don't really have to prepare. I just go live, I talk about things that I know or that I can figure out, or we figure things out, and it's fun. Whereas a course is typically, I have to plan it ahead of time, and it just involves a little bit more work. So the main reason it hasn't happened probably is because I'm lazy and I'm a procrastinator, but it's going to happen one day. I don't know when, but I would like to. Because it would be a good like passive revenue stream. Like I create the course, it's out there, and then people will continue to buy it and watch it even after I made it, so I can keep making money later. So yeah, the answer is I've thought about it. I want to do it, just don't know when I will do it. Cool. Let's catch up on the chat, and then let's build something. Cool. Yeah, I asked how everyone was doing earlier. Bob says, having a good day, real tired, finals in 2 weeks. That sucks. I guess it's that time of year, isn't it? When is it? April? Yeah, like people are graduating or like end of semester, end of term in May. My heart goes out to all of you preparing for the end. Not the end of it all, but the end of this year, semester, whatever. Oh, dang. Aaron's dog is not eating. That's not good. Um, my friend's dog seems to respond really well to wet dog food. Like he eats dry dog food, but if you give him wet dog food, he'll just like eat it immediately. I don't know if it's the same with every dog, but oh, it's almost 10 p.m. In the UK. It's only 2:45 here. Motivation asked, maxed out asks, do you remember you did an eBay scraper? I do. That was almost, I think that was like a morning tea episode or something like that. But he's saying they have an API now, but you need to send it an XML file. Is it a SOAP API? So a SOAP API is, it's still an API, but instead of sending it JSON data, you typically send it XML. I'm curious if that's what it is. Okay. Leonel says, please say hi to Leon. Hello, Leon. Oliver's saying, yeah, it may work the same, but we all know Koa.js is the best. In talking about, like, at the end of the day, back-end frameworks, like, it's all the same, but I don't know. Brian is asking, what do you think about the show Silicon Valley? I love it. I think the jokes are just so spot on. It's like the show is just extremely self-aware. I know this, like, they're making fun of tech people, but at the same time, like, having worked with tech people and like it's very accurate and also absolutely hilarious. I love that show. uh, Auguzan is asking which keyboard do you use with a Mac right now. This one. So it's just a mechanical keyboard. Oh, these are these are blue lights, so you can actually see through it to my blue screen. But yeah, it's just a mechanical keyboard. I posted the link somewhere. If any of the mods have that keyboard link handy, can you send it out? But it's just like a $35 mechanical keyboard I got on Amazon. Cool. Okay, so motivation maxed out says, yes, it's SOAP for eBay API. So what you might look for is like, and it depends on how their API is set up. Like if it was set up for like client-side code to call it, you may not need a backend server, but you most likely will. So search npm for like SOAP client. A minimal node SOAP client. And so typically these things will have like a built-in way of like generating the XML, or like they know how to talk to SOAP services. So you might use something like this. There's also XML2JS, which I've used. Curious if this is the one. Yeah, this is the one I've used. So typically your responses from a SOAP API will also be in XML. So you could use a package like this, which can take the XML and turn it into JSON, which you can actually use. And that said, oh, hey, Josh, thanks for the link. But that said, is there an eBay API thing on NPM? Authored 21 days ago. The intent is to simplify the request process by handling the tedious logic. It's a thin wrapper around the eBay API. This is like a really new library, so maybe if they just released that API, this library might actually work for you. So I'd look into that too. Cool. They might have done all the hard work of like calling the XML API and stuff like that. Everyone's like, take my money, I'll buy your course. I honestly should. I should just set aside the time and do it. Okay, so let's code a thing. So So the first thing is upvote system in the Reddit clone we did a while ago. Is that the one I did with Firebase? I think we had talked about doing upvotes, but yeah, that would be a little bit involved, I think. Also, because I have to just remind myself of what we did when we coded that thing, but yeah. Read this markdown file. Make a desktop app using Electron. User can add their expenses and income in a particular day and can watch its history as well as on a particular date. App can have multiple users, but each user can only access his data. Interesting. I guess for that, it would be like all in a local database. And you would like enter an expense. You could see a chart of like all your past expenses. Interesting. Some search algorithm implementation like binary search or tim sort if you're feeling frisky. That would be fun actually to do a binary search. I like that. Super simple app like a to-do app, but everything is a microservice. It's interesting to think about. Like I haven't really built microservices before. Like I know how to like break down an app, but would this be that there's an add to do service, there's a remove to do service, there's an edit to do service? Like each of the different operations are actually their own separate service. Is that how that would work? It's interesting. Would like to see a regex search for something like customers on multiple fields using the new Feathers Vuex renderless components. Whoa! Cool. Small app with the YouTube API. That would be cool. I've done that in the past, but that would be fun. Nuxt with Feathers.js. That's actually doable. I think somebody has created a starter with that before, but I just haven't. Do I know about Gridsome? I've heard of it, and I saw one person using it, but I haven't really even looked it up or used it myself. Actually, I heard about it on the Syntax podcast too. Hey CJ, is React easier than Angular? I think it's all relative, especially if you already know JavaScript. If you don't know TypeScript, you're gonna have to learn it. If you don't know JSX, you're gonna have to learn it. Like vice versa, either or. There are probably more concepts in Angular. Say if you're really strong with JavaScript, probably React. But at the same time, if you're like a team of people, or like you have a team of developers and you're going to build an app, if you choose React, there's a lot of different choices you have to make. Like, are you going to use Redux? Or are you just going to use the context API? Or you could use like Flux or something else like that. Are you going to use Redux Promise, or are you going to use Redux Thunks, or are you going to use Redux Sagas? Are you going to use Axios or just Fetch? Like, yep, there are a lot of choices you have to make if you choose React, whereas Angular has already made all those choices for you. What do I think about my own course on Udemy? Isn't Udemy the one that everyone hates? But I've thought about doing online courses, yes. And super chat from Brandon Myers, 99 cents. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. A small React Redux e-commerce app with databases. Stuff. We should just code some stuff. How much stuff could we code? JavaScript problem solving. Yeah, I sort of do that in my code katas. I know they're very, like, each kata is very specific, so you see my problem solving associated with that specific kata. It would be interesting to see just in building of regular apps how I solve problems, but it's always hard to come up with examples. You really just gotta, like, build the thing and see me struggle. How to get a job as a developer without any experience? You gotta code. You gotta like learn to code. You gotta build apps, and it doesn't have to be for anything. It just has to be for you. Right now, it's just for you. It's for you to learn, get your bearings, figure things out, and eventually, after you can build apps and like just for you, it doesn't have to be for anyone else. You can start building out a portfolio, or maybe you build apps for people, and then maybe you start applying for jobs. But you can absolutely do it. I know hundreds of people that have gotten developer jobs without any prior development experience. Oh, stream a video from a database? That sounds insane. I mean, it's probably doable. I don't know, like, who does that? I don't know. Yeah, I know I've talked about this in the past on stream. It's like maybe I just stream myself learning some other language so you can see how I do it. I know Brooks of Brooks Build streams himself learning Rust. I don't know. I just like JavaScript so much. Wait, did I get another super chat? Brandon Myers with another 99-cent super chat. Thank you so much. Cool. Okay, so what are we gonna do? We could do the upvote system. I don't know. How much time I got? I got about 30 minutes. I want to stream for about 30 minutes more, so it's got to be something that's doable in 30 minutes. A search algorithm implementation would be fun. I don't know if it's going to be that flashy or if that many people would like to watch, though. Yeah, the to-do service with Lambdas would be fun. I've never actually deployed a Lambda function to AWS, so that would be fun to watch me struggle doing that. You know what? I think I like it. I think I like a to-do app, well, let's say a to-do API with AWS Lambda microservices. That's what we're going to do. And I got a super chat from Himanshu, who said... help me make Electron app for my CLG project, please. I can provide tips. So like, I don't think I'm gonna do that on stream right now. But if you ask questions in the Coding Garden Discord, I'd be happy to respond. Or like, if you need guidance on like where to get started, I can help out there too. Okay. People are telling me to do the algo one. What if I built a Lambda function that can do a search on an array that you pass it? Let's do a combination. Okay, so we're gonna do. I think for sure that I want to do. I want to do something with AWS Lambda because I've read about it. I've just never actually done it. We're gonna do it with like a node.js microservice. We could do like to-do services. So we'd have a service for like add to-do. We'd have a service for remove to-do. We'd have a service for update to-do. I think that's it. And each of those would be their own service. We could also do a search algorithm a microservice. So like, given data and search, use binary search. I don't know. Use algorithm to find data. The thing about that though is, like, why would you really need it? It would be like a pointless microservice, but it would be fun. I don't know. Oh, we could search to-dos using a binary search. But binary search typically works on things that are like less than or greater than each other. Could that work? I don't know. Cool. Okay. See you later, Julian. Thanks for watching. Okay. I kind of want to write binary search. So let's do this. I'm going to write a binary search function, and then I'm going to deploy that to AWS Lambda, whatever that means, but we're going to figure it out. Okay. So first things first. We're going to make our binary search function. It's going to work beautifully. And then we're going to deploy to AWS Lambda. So those are the steps. All right. Let's make a new folder. Let me close all this other stuff. Okay, so in this folder, we're creating a new file. We'll call it index.js. It's going to be a function called binary search. It needs to take in the, like, what are you searching for? And the data itself. Yeah? Cool. Let's look up binary search on the interwebs to make sure we do it right. And yeah, binary search algorithm. And we could just search an array of numbers. Maybe part of this microservice is that it returns the steps it took to search that array. Like it could show you, because binary search is basically, well, the data you're given has to already be in some sort of like sorted order. Yeah, so binary search is a search algorithm that finds the position of a target value with a sorted array. So the data has to be sorted already. We could create another service that sorts an array. Huh. Okay, let me catch up on the chat. Yeah, it must be sorted. So maybe we create another service that can sort an array, and maybe you call the first service to get your array sorted, and then you call the second service to search it. Why not? Sorting would be easy. We could do like bubble sort or something like that. Actually, let's do a poll. What search should I implement? Multiple choice. So we could do bubble sort. We could do, my favorite actually is merge sort. We could also do like insertion sort. We do quick sort. Go. Okay. Vote now. Which search algorithm should I implement? Oh, and a microservice to generate a random array? I kind of like that. I like merge sort because at its core idea, it's so simple. Like the idea that to merge two arrays of length 1 into sorted order is a really simple algorithm, right? Like if this one's greater, it goes first. If this one's greater, it goes first. So you just take that, but you break it down and then you build it back up, and merging is really easy. I don't know. I just like merge sort. And yes, no BOGO sort. All right, I'll let you all vote. You all vote. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Can I show the results somehow? But merge sort has won by a very large margin. Wait. Oh, you can see the results. Yeah. So merge sort in at 57%. We're going to do merge sort. So I actually really like this idea. So we can have a microservice that generates a random array, a microservice that sorts the array, and then a microservice that does a binary search on the array. Cool. This is going to be fun. All right, I'm going to stop the poll now. All right, so let's do merge sort. Okay, let me just make a note of this. So we need generate random array of numbers. We need merge sort an array of numbers. And then we need binary search an array of numbers. And then we're going to deploy it all to AWS. Excuse me, I just burped. This is going to be great. All right, we're just going to rename this folder. Algorithms as a service. All right. Okay, so first thing we would need is that generate random numbers. So let's say you can give it a, it needs a length. That's required. But then you can also give it a minimum value of the number and a maximum value of the number. Otherwise, we'll default these to like, I don't know, minimum is -100 and max is 100. Let's do this. Okay, so we need to create an array. It's going to be of length. And we'll say if, not length, meaning, well, so if length is undefined, or length is less than 1, we're going to throw an error. Length must be a positive number. Okay. Otherwise, we're going to create an array that's initialized as the length that you gave us. And then we just need to iterate and set each value to be a random number. I'm curious, if we create an array of a given length, will a for each actually work? Like, will this be initialized with undefined? Let me see. So this would be like the value, which is undefined, and the index. I just want to see really quick. We could technically do a map, but then that would create a new array. I want to use the existing array. I also just want to see if this is going to work. All right, I'm going to start up Quokka. And we're going to log, well, not log, we're just going to call random numbers with length 10. Yeah, this for each is only getting called once. 100. Oh! This is creating an array with that value inside of it. We don't want that. We want a new array of that length. This is what we want. Yeah, and then the for each doesn't work. Okay, that's fine. So we'll just do a for loop. And we'll just say like array at I equals some random number between min and max. So we'd probably want to do math.floor of math.random times the max. This would give us a this would give us a random number between 0 and the maximum value, right? But if we want it to be between the min, we would have to do some subtraction. So we would have to say it would say min minus that. And to get the full range of numbers, we would need to do, I think we need to do max plus the absolute value of min. Is that too many parentheses? Does this math make sense? So basically, we need a random number between min and max. So we're saying here min is, we're going to add. We're going to say, take the minimum value, which could be like 0. Let's say we default to 0. So the default is 0 and 100. So if min is 0, then we just have math.random times max, which is 100, plus absolute value of 0 is 0. So we just get a random number between 0 and 100. But if this was negative 100, we would say negative 100 plus math.random times the max, which is 100, plus absolute value of min would be 100, so at 200. So this would give us a random value between 0 and 200. But then basically we would subtract the min, so it would now be within min and max. Right? We better do, because this actually could be 10. I think we better do this minus the min. But if we did that, then it would be plus. I don't know. Somebody help me. Yeah, Domenico is saying random times max minus min plus min. Okay. So we should just find a random value and then we scale it. I like it. Oh yeah, I mean, if we want to log the, like what we're getting right now, well, we're not calling it. Array is not defined. Yes, you're right. It should be result. Yeah, so random values between 10 and 100. That's great. What if we do negative 100 and 100? So I think it does need to be min plus. That's wrong. Okay, I'm going to use Domenico's formula. So this is just going to be math.random times max minus min. This is like the classic, it's like mapping from one min and max to another min and max. So math.random times max minus min, all of it plus the min. Yeah, so between 10 and 100, that looks good. It's never really going above 100. And if we did negative 100 and 100, yeah, that's the way to go. Thank you, Domenico, for the formula. Okay, so we got a bunch of random numbers. Let's also do a check to make sure that min is less than max. So if min is greater than max. I'm going to throw a new error. Min must be less than max. All right. Are we allowing float min max? I don't think so. I want these to be, I guess we could. I mean, yeah, like what if this was a negative 100.1? Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think so. I don't think that's gonna mess us up in any way. Cool. All right, I think we're good there. We have our random numbers function. I think we should try to turn this into a microservice before we get any further because we're gonna have to do the same thing with all of our other functions. So let's just get this working. Okay, and ultimately we would return result. Okay. AWS Lambda. How does that work? All right, I'm going to log in. So I'm going to hide my screen. Just a second. Oliver's saying, I'm generating numbers that are an integer above the min, which is weird. Do you mean, just log. So you mean it would never be the min? Is that what you're saying? You're saying one above the min? No. Bob's Paradox says, I thought we were doing strings. No, we're just doing a bunch of we're doing like algorithmic functions. Cool. Yeah, and I've heard of AWS API Gateway, basically that you put that in front and you have your Lambda functions behind it, but the API Gateway is like a single entry point into all of your Lambda functions. I've heard of that. Okay, so I think this is good. This is perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with this. Okay, so I'm logged into AWS here. Let's search for Lambda. Run code without thinking about servers. How it works. You have your handler. All right, let's create a function. Author from scratch. So start with a simple hello world example. Build a Lambda application from sample code and configure presets for common use cases. Let's go from scratch, because why not? Okay, function name. Random numbers. Like that. Runtime, we'll use Node. Oh, wow, that's interesting. They have node.js 8.10. That's fine. Permissions. Who can execute it? Create a new role with basic Lambda permissions. All right, let's create our function. Yeah, nothing wrong with this. ResMed is asking, what's the extension that allows us to execute the code in the console log? It's called Quokka.js. It's really cool. They have it for all the major editors, but there's a free version, which is limited, and then there's a pro version. I still just have the free version, but I'm going to buy the pro version any moment now. But this is the thing. I start it up, and it'll actually show you, it'll run your code and show you the console logs. Okay, so we have our Lambda function. Now what? Okay, so this is interesting because it actually lets us edit the code right here in line. I know there's a way of writing it locally and then like pushing it up to Lambda. I should probably do that, but at the same time, I think I'd have to configure the CLI. This is fine. This is fine. We're just gonna copy and paste our function in. Okay, so implement. Actually, we'll have our function above it. So this is our random numbers function. And the response, I believe we should have access to like event dot body, because I need the The person making this request needs to send us the length and then min and max. So let's look at the docs real quick. AWS Lambda event. It'll tell us all the things that are on it. AWS Lambda event source. That's not what I want. Really, I want to look into like this handler here. How does this handler work? And for those of you that are new to Lambda functions, the way I like to think about it is this is basically just one route handler in Express. So when you do like app.get or app.use and you have that function right there with rec, res, and next, that's what this is. And a Lambda function is just one of them. So you would have lots of Lambda functions to build out your whole app. And then you would use something like API Gateway to bring them all together. Not in Java, in node.js. Okay, so we get the event, we get the context, and we get the callback. Please describe to me what these things are. What is the context? It passes a context. The object provides methods and properties that provide information about the invocation, function, and execution environment. Basically, what I want is I need to be able to do something like rec.body. So rec.body.length, rec.body.min, rec.body.max. Whoever is making this request is going to send me those things, and I need to get access to them inside of this function. So how do I do that? So context has function name, all that good stuff. I'm guessing I want to use event. Using the callback parameter. Let's just search for event.body. How to parse body params on AWS Lambda. I guess we probably would need like a body parser too. Building Lambda functions with node.js. I think we were just here. Are people telling me? And this is kind of what I mean about AWS docs being very verbose. Like, there's a lot of stuff in here, but it's not exactly telling me what I want to know or need to know. Using the console. Okay, we did that. That's great. It's awesome. I don't want to do any of this. I don't want to do that. Okay, the AWS SDK is a thing, so maybe we could use that. It's too much. It's too much. I just want rec.body. Request body. Getting the JSON body in an AWS Lambda via API Gateway. What? There are two different Lambda integrations you can configure. Event.body. Okay, so event.body should actually be a string that we can then parse. That's what I'm going to guess, because I kind of just saw that here. It says it's in the documentation. Yeah, event.body. That's the one. Okay. JSON.parse event.body. And then we're just going to invoke our random numbers function with body.length, body.min, and body.max. We can destructure it. Does Node.js 8 support that? Cool. Let's test it. Create a new test event. My event name, random test. So we want length to be 100. We want min to be -50. And we want max to be 50. Create. Response. Oh, wait. Configure test events. Did I not save it? Oh, I need to save it. Okay, so I saved it. Now we test it. Unexpected token U in JSON at position 0. Cool. Let's just do this. Let's log event.body to see what we actually get. I don't know if that's actually sending it as the body. So we'll save it, test it. Undefined. Oh, is it literally just the event? What if I did this? I think honestly it's just the event. Okay, let me try this. So if I didn't do event, let's just log event. Save it, test it. Yeah. And then I don't actually need, that's so weird. I don't actually need to parse the body. Maybe it'll be different when I'm trying to call it externally. There we go. And we got back the random array. Okay. That's great and all, but I want to test this from like Postman. Yeah, like API gateway. Configuration required. All right, I'm gonna catch up on the on the chat because I'm sure people are like yelling at me. Oh, I see. So Oliver's saying the event is what you're interested in, but that's API Gateway's job. So API Gateway would potentially like parse the body or whatever and then pass it on to the Lambda functions. Okay. Event template, API Gateway, return the event. Okay. Okay. Create a new testim event. And what you're telling me is there is an API gateway. Whoa. Yeah, okay. Regardless, we need to put this in front of an API gateway. So how do we do that? Dashboard. I've got one Lambda function, random numbers. I'm guessing, do I need to create the gateway outside of this and then maybe I can choose it? Let's do that. Okay. Build, deploy, and manage APIs. Let's get started. Welcome to the Amazon API Gateway. To create your first API, we have pre-populated the import. I don't want to use Swagger. Please don't make me use Swagger. REST. New API. API name. Algorithms as a service. Regional. Create API. Okay, so now resources. We can create a method, which is going to be, this will most likely be a post. I'm guessing somewhere in here we can, yeah, so integration type, Lambda function, but actually I don't want it to just be post. New child resource. Stop it. Okay. Can I just delete this? So what is a proxy resource? Don't want to do that. Enable API gateway cores. Yeah, so we could call it from a client later if we wanted to. All right, create the random numbers resource. All right, so now we have random numbers. And on it, we want a method that's going to be a post. And this is going to post to a Lambda function. Yeah, so proxy the request details. We get to choose our Lambda function, provide the Lambda function name or alias/version. I need to go figure out what my Lambda function name is, but I think this is the way to do it. So we can basically say, when a post request comes in on /random numbers, we're going to call that Lambda function, which will do its thing and respond. So I need to get back. Nope, go back. There we go. So I need to figure out what's the AR in. Yeah, copy that. We're going to put that AR in here. Oh, I can just call it random numbers. Cool. And then save it. You're about to give API gateway permission to invoke your Lambda function. That's fine. Cool. We got something going. I want to get rid of this. Yeah, there we go. Delete method. Okay, so when we make a post request to random numbers, we are going to invoke that Lambda function. Now, do I need an API key? How can I call it? Test it. And this is where our request body would go in. And I think this is where I'm going to have to update the Lambda function to say like event.body or whatever. Okay. Length is 100. Min is -50. Max is 50. Test. There we go. Internal server error. Actually, I wonder if we can see the logs down here. No. Length must be a positive number. Okay, that's fine. I think this is where we should be able to do json.parse event.body. Okay, now we test it. Internal server error. Endpoint response body before transformations. Execution failed, malformed Lambda proxy response. I'm going to look at the chat and people are going to be telling me that I need to respond in a specific way. But, so I am responding. It's technically sort of kind of working, but we need to make sure it responds in the right way. So like it is sending back the array, so that's a good thing. But now we need to make sure that it has to be probably in a like the right proper response. Oh, I need to save. Oh, I saved over there. Let's see. I'm gonna check up on the chat. Oliver is sent me a link to the docs. Okay, so that's an example of what we're receiving. I think that's okay. I see. So Oliver's mentioning, so right now I'm just returning the entire array right here. But what I need to do is like put it in an object that has a body property, because I want that to be the body of the response. So we'll say result is that, and then we're going to return an object. Well, let's just call it body. We'll return an object that has that as the body. Save. Now we test. And you also need status code. Josh and Oliver are mentioning. So in this case, status code should be 200 because it was good. And body. All right, moment of truth. Nothing. So endpoint response, status code 200, body is an array. That's good. Malformed Lambda proxy response. Let's just look this up. The thing is, once I figure this out, all of our other functions are going to be easy sailing. For API gateway to handle a Lambda function's response, the response must be JSON in this format. Is base64 encoded? False. We have the status code. Maybe we have to send back empty headers? Okay. There we go. Let's try that. Go. No? Oh, body must be converted to a string to prevent further problems with the response. So I have to stringify it myself. I think that's the main issue. Okay. Say body is json.stringify, and let's call this result. That's probably it. All right. Here we go. Yeah! Oh, there we go. Oliver's saying body will need to be a string. Okay. So we have successfully created a Lambda function that can give us a random array of numbers. Beautiful. Okay. How would I actually call this from like Postman? It's calling this? Just a second. We want to do a post. Missing authentication token. Okay. Well, there's an authentication token. Okay. I need to just... How do I just call this? Yeah. Like, hey, Lambda. Gateway responses. Usage plans. API keys. Can we create an API key? I guess we could. And then we would need to include that in our requests. Okay. Regardless, let's just create some more Lambda functions. Okay, so we have random number. It's a beautiful thing. Now we're going to need another Lambda function that will be sort it. We need to implement merge sort. Okay, so we have a random array of numbers. That's great. Let's just call this random numbers. We're also going to need one that is merge sort. So merge sort will take in an array of numbers, and it will sort them. So we'll just test this out. Oh, and this needs to be an array. Okay, so let's go look up the merge sort algorithm and then get this thing implemented. I should be able to make it public and... Okay, and then Oliver gave me the format of the URL. Cool. I guess if you could find or send me the docs that have that in it, I'll do it. Okay, let's look up merge sort. Okay, so the way merge sort works is it takes an array, and then it splits it in half. And then it takes those two halves, and it splits them in half. And it basically keeps splitting them until you have a bunch of length 1 arrays. Then you apply the merge algorithm on 2 arrays. So to merge an array with 5 and 6, 5 goes in front of 6. To merge these 2 arrays, 1 comes before 3. To merge these 2, 7 comes before 8. To merge these 2, 2 comes before 4. And now we have a bunch of smaller sorted arrays, so we need to merge them together. So the merge algorithm is very simple. Like, you basically are looking at both. You're pulling in the lesser and then applying it there. Cool. And so in this case, 2 would come down, and then 4 would come down, and then 7 and 8. And then the last step will be to merge these 2 arrays to get one big sorted array. Because it's a beautiful concept. Like, it's really easy to merge sorted arrays of length 1 because an array of length 1 is always sorted, and then you gradually just merge them all back together. Cool. And I think we could probably do the recursive solution to this. Cool. Oh, okay. Oliver's saying the correct thing to do is on gateway, go to resources, then actions, deploy API. Resources, actions, deploy API. Test. Nope, don't do that. Don't do that. So this should work with Postman then. Missing authentication token? I still need an authentication token? I guess here is where I could make it public. I don't know. We'll do that later. We'll do that later. We're going to implement merge sort. Okay. So, based on that, we'll do the recursive solution. So, if numbers.length is equal to 1, then we just return numbers. Yeah. So if we try to merge an array of length 5, we're done. We're instantly done. Cool. Else, or not else, we'll just do it. We need to split the array into equal parts and call merge sort again, and then merge those 2 parts back together. So we'll say sorted left is going to be merge sort with we need to split the numbers we need to split the numbers array up. So we'll say numbers dot slice will give us a copy of the array, and we want to go from 0 to numbers dot length -1, no, and all of that divided by 2. So numbers dot length divided by 2. And then we'll say the sorted right is going to be merge sort with the opposite. So numbers dot length divided by 2 all the way up to numbers dot length -1. Then we need to merge them together. So we need to just merge sorted left with sorted right. And we need to create a function that can merge two sorted arrays together. Yeah, we'll figure that out. Oh, and side point. So this should be a post. 2 random numbers. Cool. Okay, and then if we actually send it the body, that'll work. Min -50. Actually, if we just leave those off, it should default. So this should give us, yeah, nice. Cool. Yeah, and so I'm not done here. I will have to clean this up. So Aaron is asking, what if you get an array with an odd length? I think slice does not include the last number, or it does include the last number. Let's look that up really quick. Array.prototype.slice. So, if we say 2 and 4, so it actually is inclusive. Because 0, 1, 2, 3, oh no, it's not inclusive. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the fourth index is actually elephant, but you get back duck. So that should work in the odd case, because this is not inclusive, and then the other half will actually include that beginning. And so I think technically, if we want the whole thing, 0, 1, 2, 3, we need to do not length -1. This just needs to be the full length. So I think, because of the way slice works, that will actually do it for us. Right now, I'm not going to implement merge. I'm just going to say return left array dot concat right array. I just want to see if this is working in general. So if we give it an array of 5 and 6, did I break something? Oh, I don't want to do merge sort there. I want to do merge. That was like a huge, like, infinite loop. So if I do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So at least it's putting them all back together. It's not doing any sort of sorting, though. But we're still at least getting the exact same array back, so I know that my parting of the arrays is correct. So now comes the merge algorithm, which is like the meat of this algorithm, which is fairly simple. Basically, we need to have a left pointer and a right pointer, and we start moving them along and comparing the two values. So let's just call this left. We'll start it off at 0. Right, we'll start it off at 0. And then we'll just iterate over the left array. I think so. And we need a we'll call it let's call it merged. We're going to be generating this merged array from the two separate arrays. And so I guess we could just do a while loop. We say while left is less than the length of the left array, or right is less than the length of the right array. So basically, we're just going to keep iterating. Ultimately, we're going to return merged. And so we'll say if left array at left is less than right array at right, we're going to say merged.push. We want all of the smaller ones at the beginning, so we push the smaller one. So we push that in, and then we increment left, because we want to look at the next value in the left array, and these need to not be constants. Okay. We do also need to check if this. So if left is less than the length of the left array, because we don't want to be checking undefined, and the value in the left array is less than the left value in the right array, we're going to take that left value, push it into the array, and then increment the left, and then keep going. We'll say else, basically the same thing, but for the right. If right is less than right array.length and right array at right is less than left array at left, we're just going to do the opposite, but with right. Okay. While left is less than left array.length, or right is less than right array.length. So this is going to keep iterating until we've reached the end of one of the arrays. And then, at this point, there might actually be some leftovers that we would just tack on to the end. And really, I probably want to do like less than or equal, because I don't want to leave out if the value is exactly the same, because it won't actually matter there. Else if. Okay, let's see what we got so far. I'm leaving out the major part where if the two arrays were not the same length, we actually need to tack on the end. Cool. Yeah, I got the else if. Yeah, and I guess technically I could like push and pop. Well, I could pop until the arrays. That might actually be simpler logic. Let me see. Do I have Quokka running? I might have an infinite loop here. I don't know. I actually like the idea of not necessarily popping. I need to remove it off of the front of the array. Let's just do that. Let's do that. Because then I could just say while left array dot length or right array dot length. And then we can always just check the first value in. So if left array dot length and then get rid of that for now. But then we can say left array dot, is it unshift? There's a way of removing the first value in an array. Adds one or more elements to the beginning of an array and returns the new length. So is it shift then? removes the first element from an array and returns that removed element. This method changes the length of the array. Cool. Just shift, because I'm thinking, okay, yeah, so I actually can just throw the shift in here because that's going to return the value. Yeah. Here we go. Okay, so we compare the two values in the arrays. If the left one is less than, we're just going to remove it from the array, put it into our merged array, and then keep iterating. So now we're going to be comparing technically the next value in the left array with the right one. If the right one was less than, it'll come into this else if and push it in and then keep going. Basically what we need to do after it's all done is if the left one or right one has any left over. So basically we're going to run out of an array, one of them first. So either the left one's going to get emptied out or the right one. And then whatever's left over, we can just tack on to the end because it was already in sorted order, technically. So we'll say if left array dot length, then we'll say merged equals merge dot concat left array. This really needs to be a let. We'll say else if right array dot length. Do the same thing, but with the right array. Because at the end of this while loop, there should only be one array that actually has stuff left in it. And there we go. We did it. Okay, so we've implemented our merge. And they're saying I can remove the else if. Yeah, because if it's not less than or equal, then it has to be greater than. So yeah, I could do that. And then what Oliver's mentioning is technically I could just do this as a, so let's spread merged. Let's spread the left array. And let's spread the right array. Because that's going to put all of it into the array. And if either one of these were empty, it's just not going to spread anything. Yeah, that works. Okay, so now, moment of truth. If we mix these things up, it should sort them. So like 10, 4, 7, 9, 2, 2, 2, 2. I can't have these spaces there. All right, we got a bunch of numbers. Are they in sorted order? Oh, there's an error there. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so 2, 2, 2, 2, 4, 4, 5, 6, 6, 8, 10, 23, 32, 2. Yeah, it works. It works. Yeah, and then giving it values that are already sorted, it should behave just fine. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Still behaves in the same way. That's good. Cool. Yeah, we could even shorten this line into a one-liner. I don't know if I want to do that because it gets a little less readable. But you could have a ternary and then decide which one to push. Do I want to do that? We could. Not a comma, a colon. Yeah, so this does the same thing, but it's a little less readable. We could write it on multiple lines. So if the left array at 0 is less than the right array at 0, shift it off the left array, else shift it off the right array. I don't know, but that took me a while to write, but look how simple the merge sort algorithm is. It's actually really simple at its core, and fairly performant too. I think it's an n log n worst case algorithm. Okay. All right, so we've got our merge sort. Let's turn it into a Lambda function. I guess any last words about my merge sort before we deploy this thing? I've gone 30 minutes over how much time I said I was going to be coding. All right, let's just call it good. This is my merge sort function. Let's create a Lambda function. Okay, we're going to create a new function. We're going to call it merge-sort. Yeah, we're going to use that same role. Okay, we're going to throw our functions in there. And what do we need to do? So numbers is going to be json.parse event.body. I think I want to look back at my other Lambda function. I already forgot how we did it, but I think this is how we did it. Yeah. And so that's going to give us the numbers. And then we'll say sorted is going to be merge sort with the numbers. And then our response is just going to have a body. Well, first we'll have a status code of 200 and a body of json.stringify sorted numbers. I think that should work. Okay, let's try it. So I'm going to, here I'm going to create a new resource. We'll call it slash merge sort. We'll enable cores. Then we're going to give it a post request. So create method post. And this is going to call a Lambda function. Am I using Lambda proxy integration on this one? Use Lambda proxy integration. Okay, I do want to do that. And I think my one is just called merge sort. Yeah. Save it. Okay. All right, so first we're going to test the random numbers endpoint. Actually, let's just publish it, right? Let's just publish it. So actions, deploy API, to test, deploy. Okay, so this should still work. This gives us back our random numbers. And then now, if we make a post request to merge sort, we're going to give it, well, its body is just going to be the array of numbers. Go. No way. It just worked. And so that gives us back a sorted array. That's awesome. Too easy. There probably are scenarios where like we send it the wrong thing. Like what if I send it an object instead? Internal server error. We could respond with like nice error messages, but Guess not. Okay. Cool. Yeah, so Oliver just wrote a one-liner merge sort. That's pretty great. A one-liner merge, yeah. Okay, so we've got our two functions. We've got merge sort. We've got random numbers. The next thing we need is binary search. And really, I don't want to, like, the last thing is, let's write JS code that calls all three functions. Okay, but right now we're going to create binary search on an array of numbers. Here we go. So binary search should take in, like, what are you searching for? And the array of numbers that you're going to be searching. So let's say we're searching for the number 2 in the array that has all these things. Well, it needs to be in sorted order, technically. So and do we want it to return the index of where it was found? Yeah, let's return the first index of where that number was found. That's not a challenge, Oliver, for a one-line merge sort. Like, it's doable. It's fun. It's a fun exercise. But at the end of the day, like, would you ever actually use that code? I don't know. Like, this is as not verbose as I would probably ever get. I really don't even know how I feel about having this ternary in here. Yeah. Okay. Let's start this up. And yeah, so let's say this. If it finds the number, it's going to return its index. If it doesn't find it, it'll return -1. And first, let's look up how a binary search works. And this will also tell us why we actually need a sorted array. So yeah, I think we can just look at this one as an example. But yeah, like, let's say we have this big array of numbers, and we're searching to see if the number 7 can be found. What you do is you start in the middle. And because we know that this is a sorted array, we can ask the question, is 7 less than 14 or greater than 14? We know that it's less than, so we now have eliminated the entire right half of the array. We know that it's not there. So now we search this part of the array. We split it in half, and that potentially gets us to, like, 8. Is 7 less than 8, or is 7 greater than 8? It's less than. So now we're looking at, or maybe they picked 6 as half of the array. Regardless, binary search is dividing the number of things you have to look at in half every single time. So it's less than 14, it's greater than 7, it's less than 8, and then, oh, sorry, it's greater than 6, it's less than 8, and then finally we found it. So basically we have to split the array in half a bunch of times until we either find it or we don't find it. Okay, so let's do it. So first we need to find, I guess, the halfway point. Yeah, so we'll find the halfway point, but I think we'll do, like, math.floor to, like, round it. But okay. First, let's say if type of search is equal to number or is not equal to number, we're just going to throw an error. Okay. Yeah. So must be a number, and then I think we'll just say if array.isArray. We want to make sure that numbers is an array. If it's not an array, then we're going to throw a new error. To be lowercase. Numbers must be an array. Okay. And then we can also check, like, if numbers.length is equal to 0, just return -1. Like, we didn't find it because there's nothing in the array. What else? I think that's it. I think we can start, like, implementing our algorithm. So, and I think ultimately with binary search, we keep cutting it in half until the thing in the middle is what we're searching for. Or not. Or we haven't found it. So, let's say, like, middle is going to be numbers.length divided by 2. And we're going to math.floor that. We'll call this middle index. And we'll say, if search is equal to numbers at the middle index, we're just going to return middle index. Done. Else, if search is less than numbers at the middle index, we can call binary search again, but with the left half of the array. So if search is less than numbers at middle index, then we're going to return binary search with our search value, and then we'll just say numbers.slice 0 up to the middle index, so the left half of the array. And then if search is greater than numbers at middle index, then we're going to do the same thing, but with the other half of the array. So we're going to say from middle index to numbers.length. So that should handle all of our cases. So if it's equal, if it's less than, if it's greater than, I think we do want to handle the case here where the array length is 1. Do we? I don't know. So if the length of the array is 1, let's just say, wait, then that doesn't give us... Oh, our index is changing every time. Isn't it? Yeah, I just thought about this. So, we're getting the index, but then the next time we recursively call it, our index is going to be off. Won't it? Yeah, like let's say we're searching for the number 5. Ultimately, the index goes back down to 1. So we don't want that. We could technically take in, instead of passing in the array cut down, we could give it a min and a max to search for. Yeah. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look at Visual Algo. They have some pretty cool visualizations. There's a binary search tree. We're not exactly doing that. I guess we could build one technically. Yeah, and this just kind of shows the algorithm. So like in a binary search tree, same idea, but your tree is balanced in that everything to the right of a given node is greater than and everything to the left of a given node is less than. I'm just trying to think how we do this with an array without losing track of our index. Maybe we don't call it recursively. So, so if search is, so if it's right in the middle, we're done. If it's not, we need to search to the left. And if it's greater than, we need to search to the right. So you probably need some sort of like while loop. And Ajia is saying, I just wanted to say you're an amazing teacher and your content is fantastic. Keep up the great work. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. Domenico is saying, add number.length divided by 2 in the last if to fix the offset. Well, I think what's happening is so if I call this recursively, next time the middle index is in relation to a smaller array. So if it was the right-hand side of the array, then yeah, I guess we technically could add middle index onto it. Because we could return like index plus this for the right-hand side. Yeah, because if it's the right-hand side, we need to add the middle index onto it. And that's what Domenico is saying. Okay. But I think the issue shows up when the value is -1. Yeah, so like what if we search for 10? Like it never happens. Or yeah, so we need another check in here. I think we'll do it right here. So if numbers.length is equal to 1, then if numbers at 0 is equal to search, then we actually need to return 0 because it'll just be the middle index. Because it's going to be adding it. What about the left-hand side? Yeah, I think. Yeah, and this breaks it though because we're searching for 10 and it's returning 3 because it's like adding a -1 on here. Really, I think we need to do this. So if the index we found is equal to -1, then just return it. Else return middle index plus the index. Okay, so it didn't find 10. What about 11? What about 100? What about 1? What about 2? What about 3? What about 4? What about 5? And that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. What about 6? Doesn't find it. I think we did it. I don't know. This seems a lot messier than it should be. I mean, it seems to be working. I don't know if I like it or not. And hello, Ellen. Thanks for dropping in. Okay, how long have I been streaming? 2 hours and 46 minutes. Okay. I kind of need to just put this in a Lambda function and be done with it. Why is this yellow? Maybe because that code is like never called. I don't know. This seems ugly. I don't know how I feel about it. But, oh yeah, will it work with like negative numbers? It doesn't work with negative numbers. Let's think about this though. Okay, so we pass in numbers here. We say length divided by 2. So length is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Divided by 2 is 2.5. So it's going to first pick that as the middle. 2, because math.floor. 0, 1, 2. And then, is it equal to this? No. Is it less than the number at that? No. Is it greater than? So is negative 50... Oh, it's not in sort order. That's why. Yeah, order... Yeah. Okay, so that's why it's broke. Because when it's negative, we actually need to go in this direction. Yeah, and so that's the caveat of binary search is the thing that you're searching must be in sorted order. That's why it didn't work. Okay, let's just say it works. Okay, great. Oh no! Let's say it works. All right. So now we have the function. So we're gonna put it on Amazon Lambda. Okay, go to our functions. Let's create a new function. We're gonna call this binary search. I mean, we probably should add a check in at the beginning to make sure that the array is sorted. I don't know. So we need, what are you searching for and what are your numbers? And that's going to all be from json.parse event.body. And then ultimately we are going to respond with binary search with search and number. Numbers. And our body will just be json.stringify the found value. And the status code will be 200. Yeah, and Oliver's saying that would ruin the runtime. Yeah, especially like if we need to check if an array is sorted before calling binary search, it's going to take a lot longer to run. Okay, so we got our Lambda function. Let's add it to the API gateway. We're going to add a new resource, which is going to be / binary search. We'll allow it for course. I'm going to create it. We're going to add a new method on it for post. This is going to call a Lambda function. This is going to call our binary search Lambda function. That's great. And then now we need to deploy the API, test, deploy. Okay, moment of truth. So Well, the first thing is we call random numbers. And I think it's going to default to just give us back an array of length 100 where the values are between a negative 100 and 100. Okay, so we got our random numbers. Now let's sort them. So we're going to call merge sort. Go. That sorts our array. There we go. And now we want to do a binary search on this sorted array. So we'll do binary search. And we need to give it a body. So we need to say the search thing we're looking for. Let's search for the number 42. Is that in there? I don't know. And numbers is going to be that. Go! -1. Okay, what if we search for the number 80? -1. That's wrong. That's definitely wrong. Because there's an 80 in there. Or is there? There's not an 80 in there. Okay. What if we search for -98? I know for sure that that's in there. 0! Okay. And if we search for like 83... the 96 index. That's great! So we've got an API gateway that has 3 endpoints. It has random numbers, merge sort, and then binary search. And each of those is their own standalone Lambda function that can handle each of those things, and then now we can call them all from the API gateway. That's it! We did it! Yay! Yeah, I was gonna like build a small app that calls all of these, but just seeing these called with Postman I think is fine. Because basically you can now see that we have several different endpoints that under the hood are each calling a Lambda function. Okay. Oh yeah, and that's a good point. Oliver's saying binary search is log in. It's actually a really fast sorting algorithm. But then if you need to check to see if it's sorted to begin with, that's now big O of in, because that's to iterate over the entire array to make sure that it's sorted. And then let's not talk about how transferring data over the internet is inherently big O of in. Yeah, I don't know why you would want something like this where you're like searching or sorting or getting random numbers in the cloud, but that's the thing. No one would do this, but this was a fun exercise in API gateway and Lambda functions, and I think the original idea came from someone said some search algorithm implementation like binary search, and that's ultimately what we did. Great. All right, I think I'm going to end it there. Thanks so much everyone for watching. Thanks for asking questions. I will leave this poll open, so in the future when I do another Ask Me Anything episode, you can vote or ask more questions here, and I'll eventually get to them. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks for everyone for all the suggestions and comments in the chat. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm gonna go eat some dinner, hang out. All right. And I will push all of this code up to GitHub. I'll throw the link in the description after I've pushed it all up. But yeah, you can see the example routing I did earlier, and then those. What are these reports? Allocation failed. Oh, that's when I had like a Stack Overflow inside of Quokka. It like output the logs in here. That's not good. Cool. All right. Thank you, everyone. Wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night. We'll see you next time. Here's this.